Okay. Oh,
Yeah.
so I
Yeah, there you go.
so I did I graduated from CIA, but it's not the one you're thinking of. It is Culinary Institute of America, one of the Harvard of culinary schools. So that was part of HSN and QVC,
They
selling
could have called it.
products.
They could have called it something else other than CIA, couldn't they?
No, CIA is great. CIA is perfect because you don't want to always say Culinary Institute of America, Culinary Institute of America. So CIA.
Yeah.
Well, the interesting thing was too that, you would say CIA, then also in the people of the world of CIA, there's NRA, which is the National Restaurant Association, not necessarily the National Rifle Association.
Association.
So all that went together, and I'd have to explain it all anyway.
Well, what have been some of your adventures actually encountering um, Bigfoot, Dogman, UFOs
Oh man, this
in
stuff
your?
has happened ever since I was my first thought. My first thought was these two flowing white things taking me down to the going down to a home. I could see from the top of the home, and it was the home I first lived in. And I see it taking me down to this little child that was holding a stuffed animal, and the rest of the family, the whole layout. And I was being taken by these two white flowing things, and they were giving me information as they were taking me down to say, "Hey, you will always be." You will always be. That was the profound statement that came out of it. Even though they said a lot, that was really you will always be. Like, and the message was, you'll go through this time, but you'll go through it, and then you keep going after that. And that was, how do you remember that as a kid? So that was my
Mm,
first thought and first memory ever. And from there, you can recognize. So I guess if you already have this thing where they like you, ghosts are usually more associated with a home or ET or whatever. But you always associate it with ghosts because you're in a home, and that's what I guess you always associate it with. But
yeah.
then, it's interesting how you start, you go see movies and it's all about this and that, and you're starving for this stuff and this information. You can't tell everybody because not everybody's feeling the same way you are. You think they are because you are. Why wouldn't they? You have this happening. Then you start meeting your people along the way. And I found that it started out with ghost people, but then the more I was wanting to learn more and more, and what might have bored me,
Hmm.
ghosts don't particularly. I do the ghost thing. I part of the show is hauntings overnight, and ghost hunters do great things with all these devices constantly, and they're picking up sounds, and it's good to use those in Bigfooting and other things too. But when to me, I want to get out into the woods. I want to see the lights. I want to see them land. Well, actually, they're sinister to me. The UFO alien, they don't care. They don't care about you. The Bigfoot seem to really care, and you can have a really good relationship with them. And the ghosts are kind of in and out too. So, I've done ghosts to where I was like, I lost all my sleep. So it's not that I don't understand that or I'm a part of that, but if I have a choice of you want to go ghost hunting or do you want to go over here to the woods, I'm going to the woods. I think that the communication is more of a conversation with the Bigfoot and more of a they want a relationship with you, and they are so intelligent. It's just amazing. But I have seen full bodied, and if you mind speak to them, right? If you mind speak to them, it's mind speak, right? Telepathy the
Hmm.
other way, UFO, remote viewing, P7. They're it's all related across the board. But um, the Bigfoot, you do the mind speak. If you literally talk to them in your head, make sure you say every syllable. Don't just have a thought, even though they can pick up on that. But if you intentionally say each syllable and say, I know you're there, and you tell them what's in your heart of how to meet them or see them, they're going to do what you ask. And they have. I've seen them full body. I've seen them look right in the window where I'm in the car, and they're looking right in the window. And I like one of them, I said, I know you're here and I want to see you, but I'm not ready to see your eyes yet. And I said, I'm serious. I'm really just not ready for that yet. And this thing looked in the window when I was in the passenger seat. It looked through the window of this truck from the driver's seat, and it showed me only from here up, which was huge, by the way. And that's what was known for this particular one. It was huge, had a huge head,
Hmm.
and it showed only from here up. I never saw its eyes. It totally respected me, not wanting to be. I wasn't ready yet, and I had noticed it had pointy ears. And the next day, when I had said it to the guy that always would see this thing and went to that particular area to see that, he had said to me, he said, "I know you saw that one because I never told you the ears were pointed." And you brought up that it was because most Bigfoot, you don't think that, right? I said, "Well, I think it's a dog
Hmm.
man." But some people say, hey, Bigfoot might have pointy ears too. You don't know. Maybe that's what,
Wow.
you know. But man, I've seen them. I've been around them. And the beams of light and the clanks, you're going to have to join for a creepy hotspot. And so you can see that for yourself again.
Uh, the clanks. What's the clanks?
When you hear clanks, when you hear metal on
Oh,
metal in the middle of the forest, it's like, okay, what's that that's really close by? Because when you know that there's something, I believe in this one area, there's one control that patrols the area. I don't. It's like it's beat, like it's a policeman, and it's beat. And this is the last couple of weeks when we were up there, we saw it, and then we saw it not only up in the air. I told the guy that was with me on our creepy hotspot. So we're there live doing the show, and I'm like, "Come here, come here." You know, he was hoping to see a Bigfoot or something. I said, "You're gonna see something even more rare than a Bigfoot. Look at this light." It was not quite dusk yet, and there it was already like flashing and spurts of light were coming out of it and it was hovering and I thought to me it was like it's patrolling its beat right now. It's looking around, it's checking things out in its area. And then later on that night we saw it off to the side of us, and it you would have thought it was just the skyline and the lights from a city far away. No, it was like right down in the valley next to us, and there's nothing but mountains. And that's uh, got a
hmm.
picture of it, showed it to who did I have? The alien hunter, Daryl Sims. He saw it and he was like, "Holy cow! I think you got something there." He says, "Of course, I don't know
Hmm.
who took the shot," and I'm like, "We did. I know what that is. I know exactly what that is." And it's consistent with the lights, the beams of light, the clanks, the glows, and all the other types of things. So if it was just kind of a one-time thing, you might go, what could that have been?" But
Yeah.
there's so much activity there, so I think you'd really like to go, Brent. So do you travel away to do that kind of stuff?
Well, when money allows,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well,
you gotta have the money. But
we'll get
I
people to
just
sign up for
when
my show, and that'll hopefully do that for us.
but I know Brooksville, Florida. I remember meeting
Ah,
back in the '70s, Ramona Clark, and then she became Ramona Hibner. But she was someone lived right near the well, right on at first the naval base when I was in the Navy, and my ship became home ported in Mayport, Florida, right near Jacksonville.
yeah,
Naval station, air station, ships, and the Coast
big
Guard
hub.
station, and there was UFO activity. And she had an experience in July '67. Her and her husband and 13-year-old son, and they saw a craft, and then within 3 or 4 days afterwards, the house was besieged with poltergeist activity. She'd hear a name called. Eventually, it led up to where balls of light and materialization of a being would appear in the bedroom, hers and her son's, that had been with them in the car when they saw this craft. And and so she became aware. She corresponded some with John Keel. She became aware of the psychic UFO connection, and then she told me, "I'm going to go to Brooksville, Florida, and I'm going to investigate the Bigfoot." And she did, and there was a lot of activity. She saw it, and there was a ranch where she was investigating, and then guess what? Her partner saw a big flying saucer with windows in it fly just over his head at the ranch, and she was showing me later when I drove over there to visit uh, with her. Saw this big ball of light come down, land the road in front of her car, and then bounce back up into the air,
No,
right near the ranch. And plus, she saw Bigfoot there. So she concluded, well, okay, I guess it is interconnected with all
yeah.
this other weird stuff.
Yeah, and you know what? It's like, are they just buddies or just in the same area because that's where they can walk through somewhere or something? Or is that where they just all hang out? Or,
Mhm.
is it like the bar in Star Wars, or they just hang out? Are they friends? Do they like each other? You don't know, right?
Well, and then I went to New Jersey. I got invited to New Jersey back in '77, I was told it was two young men who were having repeated sightings of this thing. And I
Uh,
got there, and just 2 months before I got there, one of them claimed he was walking down this road at night going home, um, a little country road, and he heard something walking behind him. He
oh,
turned around with his flashlight. He says about 18 inches face to face with Bigfoot. And he's got the light shining in the creature's eyes.
oh,
It's blinking its eyes. It's like,
it's going
what do we do now? But he said I couldn't move, and he said behind the creature
right.
there was a little ball of light with a high pitched whistling sound. And he said for a little while, for a few seconds, neither me or the creature moved. We just stared face to face. And then he
Ah,
said, the light went out, and he turned around and went back up the road, and I turned around and went back to my house.
oh, wow.
and
That's interesting.
and that was back in the 70s. There was a massive amount of activity. There were other witnesses in that area, and there were UFO sightings, poltergeists. And what was interesting is I drove by this place of a doctor who was traveling all over the country looking for Bigfoot, and he had an office right there nearby, but he didn't know about what was going on there.
Oh,
And I was told I was supposed to keep it all quiet at the time.
oh, oh. Keep that person's name quiet. Let them know what's out there, you know? I
It's
know that's so hard. Everybody, don't tell anybody. And you're like, okay. And you're good at that, but it's like, no, we need to know. But, I guess at that point, yeah, people don't want to be a part of it. But man, you got to tell about that area just so people will know when they run into one what to even do or expect because it blows your mind. It is so mind boggling. And it's interesting that you said about they both freeze because I know with the aliens, what I have found is, that they totally freeze you. They do whatever the freak they want to you. They turn you off and on. You're a zombie or whatever they want. They put you back. You forget whatever, but there are ways to remember. There are exercises you can do yourself just to imprint with that NLP, and so you can be prepared for that. But it was interesting to me when I started finding out people were saying things to where it sounded like the Bigfoot were freezing people, and that it's like, well, that's interesting. They're doing that too. But then for you to say there was a light, I wonder if because you do see the lights with the Bigfoot, is it maybe the lights are turning everybody off because the Bigfoot was frozen too. So maybe they're the ones that are behind all of the freezing only. I don't know, but that's certainly something to look into.
Yeah, not far from here. There's a place called Flintville, and back in '76, it made national news. It was in fact, it made the National Enquirer because at one home there was a boy a 4-year-old boy, I think he was, by an open door, and the creature came close to it, and the mother grabbed him and pulled him away, thinking that it was going to grab the little boy, and so
Oh,
that made big news. But I went over there, and there were like three houses in a row along this small country road, and all of them claimed to see the creature, the Bigfoot. And one guy was very reluctant to have his name associated with the stories and stuff. And he even told me, "I'll punch your nose if you
oh,
if you
you're like,
reveal my
okay.
identity and all this." And I mean, they'd already been in the National Enquirer, but um, and and then he said, "I've seen lights. I've seen the creature." He described what it looked like. He said, "I don't think it's no Bigfoot." He said, "I think it's something that's got with something else out in nature and it's created a mutation."
Oh
And he
my
said,
gosh, that's even
and he's,
scarier than a Bigfoot.
and he says, "I don't think that we've been to the moon, so I don't believe in UFOs." But then I come back to visit him again later, along with some of the other people there, and he proceeds at that point, forgetting that he told me he wasn't going to tell me. He tells me about every time this creature's around, we see this ball of light over the pine trees out there.
Hmm.
And he said one time it was about, I think he said 15 of us. And then one night, big old meteor come down. It lit up the area like day. A minute and a half, it just came down out of the sky, making this sound. And then it came out, looked like in this field. When we went and looked, there was no crash, so it must have been further away than
And
we
it
thought.
was 3 days later. We don't understand.
Yeah, it was
Don't know
yeah,
what happened.
it was and I thought, wow, this is something else. But of course he said, "I don't believe we've been to the moon. I think it was all a Hollywood production. All that stuff is just you know uh, he says, "I believe what the Bible says, nothing more."